Imagine waking up one morning and hearing the shocking news. The Philippines has decided to end its long-standing alliance with the United States. For more than 70 years, the Philippines and the U.S. have been bound by a security treaty, economic ties, military cooperation, and cultural exchanges. But what if suddenly that bond was broken? What would happen to the Philippines, to the United States, and even to the balance of power in Asia? This is not just a political question. It's a story that affects millions of lives, the safety of entire nations, and the peace of one of the most important regions in the world. Today, we will explore what happens if the Philippines breaks its alliance with the U.S. And the consequences are far deeper than you might expect. The Philippines is located at the heart of Southeast Asia, sitting on vital sea routes that connect the Pacific Ocean to the Indian Ocean. This strategic position is one of the main reasons the United States values its alliance with the Philippines. Since World War II, America has maintained strong military cooperation with the country. Bases like Subic Bay and Clark Air Base were once key U.S. outposts in Asia. Although they were closed in the 1990s, America still regularly rotates troops, conducts joint military exercises, and provides modern weapons and training through the Mutual Defense Treaty. This alliance has been seen as a shield, protecting the Philippines against larger powers and strengthening its ability to respond to natural disasters, terrorism, and internal threats. But what if that shield is suddenly removed? If the Philippines cuts ties with the United States, the first and most obvious effect would be military vulnerability. The Philippines has one of the weakest militaries in the region, despite efforts to modernize. Compared to its neighbors, it lacks advanced fighter jets, missile systems, submarines, and other high-tech equipment that could deter aggression. The U.S. provides not only weapons, but also intelligence, training, and logistical support. Without the American partnership, the Philippines would be left exposed. The South China Sea, where the Philippines has overlapping claims with China, Vietnam, and other nations, would suddenly become a much more dangerous place. China, in particular, could take advantage of the situation, pushing harder into disputed territories like the Spratly Islands and Scarborough Shoal. Without U.S. backing, would the Philippines be able to stand its ground? Many experts say no, but the consequences are not just military. Let's think about the economy. The United States is one of the Philippines' largest trading partners and sources of investment. Billions of dollars flow between the two countries every year, from exports of Philippine goods like electronics and agricultural products to imports of American technology and services. Millions of Filipinos live and work in the United States, sending back billions in remittances that support families and communities across the Philippines. If the alliance is broken, these economic ties may weaken. Investors could lose confidence, businesses could hesitate to expand, and the flow of remittances could become more uncertain if diplomatic tensions rise. The Philippine economy, already vulnerable to global shocks, would face even greater risks. At the same time, we must consider the human and cultural connections. Filipinos and Americans share deep bonds through history, migration, and shared values. English is widely spoken in the Philippines, and American culture, from music and movies to sports and food, is deeply rooted in daily life. A break in the alliance would not erase these ties overnight, but it would strain them. Filipinos in the United States might face new challenges if relations turn sour. Cultural exchanges, scholarships, and educational opportunities could shrink. What does it mean for ordinary people if two nations that feel so close suddenly drift apart? Some might argue that breaking the alliance could open new opportunities for the Philippines without leaning on the U.S., so as the country could pursue a more independent foreign policy, strengthening ties with other powers like China, Russia, or regional neighbors in ASEAN. China, in particular, has been courting the Philippines with promises of investment, loans, and infrastructure projects under its Belt and Road Initiative. If the Philippines chooses to side more closely with China, it could gain access to new funding for roads, bridges, ports, and energy projects. Some leaders may see this as a chance to grow economically and escape reliance on the West, but the question remains, at what cost? Aligning more closely with China might bring money, but it also comes with risks. China has its own agenda in the South China Sea, where it has built artificial islands, military bases, and deployed ships to assert its control. Would the Philippines be able to negotiate fairly with such a powerful neighbor without the U.S. alliance to balance the scales? Or would it risk becoming too dependent, surrendering parts of its sovereignty in exchange for economic benefits? History shows that smaller nations often struggle to maintain equal footing when dealing with larger, more powerful states. On the other hand, breaking the alliance could push the U.S. to strengthen ties with other partners in the region such as Japan, South Korea, Australia, and even Vietnam. The U.S. strategy in Asia is built around alliances, and losing the Philippines would be a major blow. But America would not simply walk away from the region, it would double down on others. The Philippines, meanwhile, might find itself isolated, caught between rival powers, and struggling to define its place. The security risks could also extend beyond the South China Sea. The Philippines has faced threats from terrorism, piracy, and natural disasters. In the past, U.S. troops have helped train Philippine forces to combat insurgencies and have provided rapid aid during typhoons and earthquakes. Without U.S. support, disaster response would become slower and weaker, costing more lives. Counter-terrorism operations might lose the intelligence sharing and advanced technology that the U.S. provides. Breaking the alliance does not just mean losing a partner in war. It also means losing a partner in peace and survival. Now let's look at the bigger picture, the global balance of power. If the Philippines turns away from the U.S., it sends a message to the world that American influence is weakening in Asia. China would celebrate this as a major victory, not just in the South China Sea, but in the entire Indo-Pacific region. Other countries might question the reliability of U.S. alliances, wondering if America can still be trusted as a protector. This could trigger a domino effect where smaller nations start hedging their bets, moving closer to China out of fear or necessity. The balance of power in Asia would shift, and that shift could have consequences far beyond the region. For the Philippines itself, the decision would spark intense debate at home. Some would welcome independence from the U.S., seeing it as a step toward true sovereignty. Others would worry about the loss of security and economic opportunities. Protests, political battles, and even divisions within the military could emerge. Leaders would be forced to navigate a storm of uncertainty, balancing promises of new opportunities with the reality of increased risks. The ordinary Filipino who simply wants safety, prosperity, and dignity would be caught in the middle of these big power struggles. But let's not forget, history is filled with turning points where nations made bold choices, sometimes for better and sometimes for worse. The Philippines once fought hard for independence from colonial powers, and it has always valued its freedom. The alliance with the U.S. has been both a source of strength and a subject of debate. Breaking it would not be the end of the Philippines' story. It would be the start of a new chapter. But whether that chapter is one of triumph or tragedy depends on the decisions made, the leadership shown, and the resilience of the Filipino people. So what happens if the Philippines breaks its alliance with the U.S.? The answer is not simple. It could gain independence and new opportunities, but it could also face isolation, vulnerability, and dependence on new powers. The South China Sea could become even more dangerous. The economy could struggle. The balance of power in Asia could shift dramatically. This is a story of choices and consequences, of risks and rewards, of courage and caution. And now I turn the question to you. What do you think the Philippines should do? Should it hold tightly to its alliance with the United States, relying on the partnership that has lasted for generations? Or should it take the leap, break away, and chart its own course no matter how uncertain? The future is unwritten, and the decision belongs not to politicians alone, but to the people who will live with the outcome. If you found this documentary thought-provoking, don't just stop here. Share this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and join the conversation. The world is changing fast, and your voice matters in shaping how we understand it. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story that could change the way you see the world. Together, let's keep asking the hard questions, exploring the big issues, and shining a light on the choices that define our future.